Hello and welcome to Greatness Radio. I am your host, Monica Carter Tagore, bringing you information, inspiration, and occasionally even interviews to help you show up at your best. When you've made the decision to go for your own greatness, this is the place to be. Let's get to it. How to answer your calling when you are afraid. I wrote a recent post on this topic and wanted to share it with you here in this podcast because I believe there are a lot of people who are ignoring the calls on their lives. There are a lot of people who are refusing to walk boldly in that calling. They're refusing to answer that calling. And so they are living lives that are compromised. They are not walking boldly in the fullness of who they truly are, because you see, our callings are expressions of who we are on the inside. And if we are ignoring our callings, then that means we are ignoring an important part of who we truly are. And you know how I feel about greatness. Greatness is that best and highest expression of who we truly are. And if we're ignoring our callings, if we're ignoring that expression of who we truly are, then how can we ever possibly get to our greatness? So I wanted to actually share a few words of inspiration with you today about responding to, yielding to, living up to, answering your calling. So we all have callings, right? You have a calling. I have a calling. A calling is really a strong push from life. It's a push from life into a certain direction. And we all feel certain callings at different points in our lives. Often, our callings are related to our gifts. Our callings are related to ways that we can use the special gifts that life has given us to make an impact in the world and to change our own lives. And that is why we have different callings at different seasons and different times in our lives, because based on what's going on, based on what we've already learned, based on what we've already experienced, we will get certain callings to help us to take our experiences, to take our expertise, to take our messages, to take our ideas, and to use them in some way that blesses the lives of others, that enhances the lives of others, that even transforms our own lives. So we have to listen to our callings. But as I said, I know a lot of people shy away from the callings. We ignore the callings because of very many reasons. And, sometimes we're ignoring the callings because we feel that those callings will challenge us to change our lives in significant ways that we're not quite ready for. And sometimes we feel as if we're just not equipped to live out those callings. And sometimes, we're just afraid. We're scared. And you know what? It is possible to be afraid of your calling. Even though your calling is about something that is special to you, it's about something that reflects who you truly are on the inside. Yes, you can still be afraid of that calling. And if you're living in that fear right now, then I really and truly want you to listen up, because this can help you to see your way through so that you can respond to your calling, so you can answer it, so you can stand up in that calling. Let's say maybe right now you are comfortable in life. You are working a job that maybe checks off all the boxes. It pays well. It's nice. People respect you. But you also know that deep down, life has been calling you to do some other work. And maybe that work will use your gift. And maybe that work will allow you to shine in that gift. A gift that maybe you've known about for quite some time, but you've not truly embraced because you don't know what to do with it. Or maybe that work will require you to take a stand for something you truly believe in. Or maybe that calling will push you to do something that's never been done before. So, of course, yielding to, responding to your calling can be scary. When you're going into the unknown, when you're going against what has always been done, when you are doing things a little bit differently, that indeed can be scary and intimidating. And that's why, if that's you, that's why you may be ignoring your calling, because of those emotions, because of that fear. Because in that fear, you're paralyzed, or you just refuse to move. And let me ask you this question. What is the alternative? Will you continue as you've been going, taking that nice, safe route that has you comfortable in life, that has you in an okay place in life, but it doesn't really feed your soul? In fact, maybe you're dying a little bit on the inside each day because you're not living out your calling. So will you continue in that path, or will you just finally trust yourself enough to take a step in the direction of that calling? Will you just finally open up to the possibility that life has more for you than what you've experienced so far? Is that a possibility? If so, just listen to me for a few minutes longer. Because as someone who helps clients turn their gifts into business assets and helps clients figure out how to use their gifts in a way that makes an impact in the world and changes their lives and creates an income, I know that every gift that is wrapped in a calling can have an angle to it that allows you to create impact and income in the world. Your gift and your calling, they're not just empty promises of life. They are promises of life that if you are to take life up on those promises, you will be repaid many times over. You will receive many opportunities. You will find that you're making an impact. You will find that your life is so much richer because you stepped into the promise of life. You chose to use your gift, or you chose to respond or answer the call. Because when life gives you a call, life is also giving you a promise. Life is giving you a promise of impact. Life is giving you a promise of meaning. Life is giving you a promise that if you use that calling, you will truly make a difference. And when you truly make a difference, when you do something that matters, wow, your life is transformed. You're in a different space. You truly get to live and breathe your greatness. So your gift may be a talent, it may be a skill, it may be, some bit of expertise, a message, or even a big idea. So if your calling is related to that gift, then life is most likely pushing you to use it in some way so that you can make that difference, so that you can touch others' lives, and the calling can change your own life. You can you'll have more energy, more vitality. You'll just be in a different space in your life. You won't just be sleepwalking through your life. You won't just be coasting. You'll be actively living. Maybe the calling is to, use your talent in the way that creates beauty in the lives of others. Because I know, as I speak to a lot of creative people, many creative people feel that their talent is related to their calling. And so they want to help create beauty in the world. So maybe that's you. Or maybe your calling is to use a skill that you have in a way that makes life easier for other people. Or maybe your calling is to show your expertise in the way that helps others do something. Maybe your calling is to share your message in a way that actually transforms thinking, gives people a new perspective on life or on their situations. Maybe your calling is to put your big idea into place in a way that actually creates possibility out of what was once seen as impossible. You see, your calling can show up in so many different ways, and only you can live it. Your calling is for you. It's not for anybody else. Others may have a same or similar gift as you, but they don't have your calling. Your calling is for you. So if you don't live out your calling, if you don't respond to your calling, if you don't answer your call, what does that mean? That means that we are left without it. It means that there is some void that is not being filled because you're not stepping up to your call. So truly consider if you're ready to answer your calling. Don't let the fear of the calling keep you from the promise of it. So I'm going to wrap up with just a few suggestions for how to move in the direction of your calling, so that if you've been ignoring that calling because you were afraid to pursue it or you didn't know where to go with it, here are 5 steps to finally answer your calling. So the first one I want to share with you is simply to stop doing what's easy and start doing what's impactful. You see, we wrap ourselves up in so much busyness. Everybody is busy these days. If you talk to any adult, especially someone who has a career or who has a family or whatever the case, and you ask them if they're busy, the answer will be yes, everybody's busy. But are you being productive? Are you doing what matters and what makes a difference? If you haven't answered your calling because you feel you don't have time to fit in one more thing in your day, look at where you're putting your time. Honestly evaluate activities based on how impactful they are. If you find that your days are filled with tasks that are easy but of little impact, then look to see where you can eliminate some of those activities and replace them with harder but more impactful activities in the area of your calling. You can free up time in your day to do what truly matters. Everyone can find time for their calling. Number 2, plan for the calling. You know, as a life strategist and business consultant, I definitely speak a lot about planning because planning is so important. So take some time to look at what it would take for you to respond to your calling. Plot out the steps. Actually write them down. And of course, as an author, I'm always talking about writing things down, but truly writing does make a difference because there's something almost magical about writing something. When you take it out of your head and put it on paper or onto your computer or your tablet or smartphone or smart device or whatever you use, when you take it out of your head and put it out like that, then it transforms. It allows you to somehow get in a position to where you're more likely to actually follow through on the plan because you can actually see it in front of you. And it also gives you the ability to see if there's a hole in the plan, if there's a problem with it. Whereas if you just kept it in your head, you might not be able to see the flaw in the plan. So take the time to not only plan for the calling, but to write it down. Take the time to write it down. I know it may seem redundant if you like to keep things in your head, but trust me on this. Writing down your plan will make a difference for you. So take the time to do it. Number 3 is that I want you to collect the resources. When you choose to live out a calling, it's quite possible that you won't know all the answers or have all the resources you need when you start. Not only is it possible, but it's likely. You see, your job then is to go about collecting those resources. If it's knowledge or a skill you need, then acquire that knowledge or skill. If it's professional help you need, then go hire the professionals. If it's supporters you need, enlist the support. If it's funding you need, go raise the funds. Collect the resources to enable you to walk fully in that calling. You see, life gives you a calling and makes the resources available, but life doesn't place all those resources nicely and neatly into your lap. You've got to do your part. So take the effort, take the time to collect the resources. Educate yourself about what needs to be done, and then go into the 4th step, which is to act. Again, in my work as a life strategist and business consultant, I spend a lot of time talking about planning, talking about strategy, and helping clients to determine the best course of action to achieve their particular goal or objective. But follow closely behind that planning is action. I'm a big believer in action. Nothing happens without action. You can't get to your greatness if you don't act upon it. So you've got to make sure that you are acting. Don't get stuck in the planning stage. Lots of people get stuck in the planning stage. They mull over whatever they're mulling over for ages. They think about it. They pray about it. They think about it. They pray about it. They plan. And while all of those are good things, those are not the end of the road. You've got to make sure you move from that thinking, that planning, that praying to actual doing. And there are always intentional actions you can take to respond to your calling. They may be massive actions, big, huge actions that you can take, or smaller ones. But whatever the case, there are actions. So if you've avoided your calling, or if you've somehow not responded to the calling because you were afraid of acting, you've really got to get over that hump. Your calling will require action. But this is the thing. I know a lot of people feel that, oh my goodness, if I am to respond to this calling, if I am to live up to this calling, it means I've got to drastically change my life. I've got to go and give up my job and run over and do this calling full time. But most of the time, living in your calling doesn't mean you have to go and immediately dump your job and go off into the unknown. So just relax. While, of course, some may leap full time into their callings, you don't have to do that if it doesn't feel like the right move for you to make on day one, and if it doesn't fit according to the plan that you have put together. So you can gradually move into your calling according to the plan that you've put together that we've just talked about. So don't get intimidated by the idea that I've got to go and dump my old life, I've got to go and dump my job, I've got to just go immediately and full throttle into this new space. No, you can take it in stages. You can take it in steps. For instance, let's say you're working a 9 to 5 and you're not at the point where you just want to go and quit your job to go into your calling. Well, maybe you can find a way to incorporate your calling into the work you're doing. Maybe that means applying for a different position in your company, or even volunteering for a new project at work that allows you to really begin to work in that calling. Or maybe you can start out working in your calling on the side. Maybe you start off with a side business or some side freelance projects to kind of get you familiar with this new work, to kind of get your feet wet, as it were. And so that way you can put in the work on the side while still having your day job. And as I said, you may do side projects that way. Your calling may be related to, for instance, a book. You might write your book in those after hours times, or you might develop your message or launch your organization, or whatever your calling is. You can do it around your day job. So look at your off times, look at your after hours times as opportunities to be able to begin working in your calling. Or you might find that you can take vacation time or even a sabbatical to get going on your calling. This planned break from work can really give you the time to dig deep and take massive action on your calling without completely giving up the job. As a matter of fact, I remember when I decided to leave the newspaper to build a business around my gifts, the editor asked if I'd like to take a sabbatical instead. And in my case, I decided against the sabbatical because I wanted to fully commit to my business. But a sabbatical can be a great opportunity, and it may be the right fit for you. So a sabbatical may be an option at your job. You just never know unless you ask or explore the possibility. So as you can see, you don't have to leave your day job right off if you're trying to figure out how to begin responding to your calling without leaving your job, without giving up the financial resources that you have available to you because of your job. So there are ways that you can use your time right now to take action on your calling. And then as you gain more capacity, more confidence, more experience, you may dedicate bigger chunks of time to that calling, and you may even take the ultimate leap of faith and one day leave that day job for work or an organization or a business built around that calling. But that doesn't have to be what you do right off. The whole point here is action. Action is important because a plan without action is just wasted time. So many people, as I said earlier, invest a lot of time into thinking and praying and planning, but they never get around to acting. So you can be different. So if you're finally ready to respond to your calling, action will be necessary. And I've just given you several ways that you can build your calling in around your day job, around the work you're already doing. But let me go on and get to my last tip for finally responding to and living out your calling. And that tip is to be open. You see, your path to working in your calling likely won't be a straight line. As you work in it, life will present you new opportunities, ideas, and resources. And so be open to the possibility that your calling may just unfold in a way that is much bigger than you initially imagined. When I responded to my calling to touch lives with words, I had no idea where it would lead. I thought I would inform as a journalist and entertain as a novelist, and I was quite happy with those ideas. But I have done that and so much more. Again, I could not have seen where I am today with the eyes I had then. My vision had to grow just as yours will have to grow when you're open to your calling. Since choosing to follow my calling and to touch lives with words, I've not only been a journalist and been a novelist, of course, but I've also been able to help clients turn their life stories, their expertise, and their ideas into books that have touched lives all over. I've helped others see new uses for their own gifts and to figure out how to monetize their gifts and their talents. I've inspired from the stage. I've done so many things within my calling. And my calling continues to unfold. I'm sure there will be many other things that I will do as my vision and my calling, they combine to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And that's the same thing that will happen with you. When you respond to and embrace your calling, your life will grow bigger. And that's why it's time to stop ignoring your calling. It's there to push you to the next level of your life and to the next level of your service to the world. So what are you going to do with your calling? Are you going to continue to ignore it, or are you going to embrace it? It's time for you to answer the call on your life. It's time for you to turn your gifts into the call that you know is in your heart. It's time for you to truly start living your life. It's truly time for you to start experiencing all that life has for you as a result of your calling. If you ignore your calling, then you're not really living. You're only sleepwalking through your life. You're denying a huge part of yourself, and you don't want that because life has much more for you than that. So figure out a way to respond to your calling, to answer your calling. Don't be afraid of it. In fact, walk boldly in it, and your life will never be the same. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to go to iTunes and subscribe. And tell a friend too, so they can live and breathe their greatness. And for more free information, inspiration, and ideas, be sure to go to monicacartertagore.com/greatness-newsletter and join the newsletter so that you get all of my best strategies, ideas, and information on freeing your greatness. In fact, go there now and you can get the Greatness Starter Collection, which is 3 free resources to inspire and inform you on your path to greatness. You have it in you. Go on. Set your greatness on fire.